This is Eric Rutan of Cannibal Corpse. You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast with Andrew McKay Smith.
G'day everybody, thanks so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it because I've got a ripper conversation, as a matter of fact, with Scott Edgar. He's the guitarist par excellence in Misery, Laceration Mantra, and also Motorized, which is a Motorhead tribute. And I watched them last night and they put in a fantastic show at the Back Room. Now, the catalyst for the conversation with Scott is due to my curiosity. I watched him and his bandmates in Misery put in a fantastic show earlier on in the year, and I was so impressed that I just had to reach out to Scott and gauge his interest in having a chat, and lo and behold, he said yes, so here it is. I must add that this chat was recorded on the 30th of April 2023, so a few months ago, and some of the things we talk about have already, of course, come to pass. Either way, here he is, Scott Edgar.
What takes up more of your time these days? Is it Laceration Mantra or Misery?
Oh, I'm producing the Laceration album at the moment, so that's taking up a shitload of time. Misery's been taking up a bit too, but I think we're going to chill for a little while with the Misery stuff. And then I've just got to finish this album, and been doing the Motorized thing, which is taking up a bit of time there. So,
I was going to ask you about Motorized. Yeah, is that because that's a Motorhead? Is it a tribute or is it a cover show?
It's a tribute show sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, we're mainly doing all the early stuff and the Fast Eddie era, sort of a couple of later ones, but yeah, it's wicked. So we've got playing with the Iron Maidens in this weekend coming up. So, and
it is too. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah, whereabouts in Brisbane are you playing with that one?
The Trifford.
Oh, that'll be a big one. Yeah, that's great.
I think it's on the Sunday. That one. Yeah.
Is it? Yeah, I wonder if we've got a public holiday the next Monday after that. I might get along to that one as well.
yeah, that'd be good. Yeah. They're really good.
Yeah. Oh, I've spoken to the bassist before. Yeah, I can't remember her name now, but lovely lady and great bass player. Yeah.
Yeah, they're amazing. Yeah, it's spot on, hey? They do it
probably. Probably the best Iron Maiden cover band around, I reckon. Those ladies.
Yeah, they've been doing it for a while now, eh?
Yeah, they get the nuances of it, don't they?
Yeah, they do. If you're going to do a tribute, you've got to nail the solos and put in the extra to make it as close as possible, sort of thing.
Yeah, there's you've probably seen how many tribute and cover shows are there around these days where there's the Queen show and the Guns N' Roses show. God knows how many AC/DC shows there are in Australia, just on the East Coast alone. But a lot of the time they're just using backing tracks as well to mimic things. And I'm not saying it's inauthentic. I mean, you've got to do what you've got to do because God knows I use backing tracks too when I play. But you really feel it when a band gets it right, don't you? You really notice it.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah. There's a band called Paradise City, I think, from the Gold Coast, the Gunners band that we played with. They're pretty spot on. They're probably the best I've seen so far.
So with Motorized, is that through Pushworth and that sort of thing? Do you get booked through those guys, or is it through another agency?
Oh, this tour's through Silverback, the Maiden's one, but we've done a couple of his shows in the past, so we know him, and asked us to hop on board whichever ones we could get to, basically.
Yeah, that's cool.
We're doing 4 shows. So it'll be good, man. Cool. Usually, we just we don't play that often unless people ask us to, or if something comes on.
Yeah, well, that's great. Well, you got your irons in plenty of fires there, and for people listening, how our introduction was that I went to a Misery show. I can't believe it took me 30 whatever years to get to a bloody Misery show. There you go. Saw you guys, and I was just blown away by your guitar performance. I consider myself I'm a bassist, but I also play guitar. And I'm not judgmental, but I'm an aficionado, and I like classy playing. And when I saw you were playing, it was probably the first time I'd really been blown away by somebody sitting watching Trey from Morbid Angel. And just the bolt type riffage that you were doing was just so crunchy and so heavy, and the point I wanted to make after that was that if any young guitarists out there who are starting out and wanting to figure out the fundamentals of extreme metal guitar playing, because it's quite technical, as you know, you're one of the guys to watch. You're just not on overseas radars or what have you. But mate, anybody in Australia, I'd be, if you were offering a service, mate, between you and Matty Wilcock down in Melbourne, mate, you've both got it sewn up.
Oh, maybe we should go into business, eh?
Mate, selling riffs by the pound. But it's just, I love excellence, mate. And just to be, I love Misery, but I hadn't got into it. Hadn't got into the band to the point where I really understood the nuance like I do with Morbid Angel and some of the other Death and Nocturnus and these sort of things. But just watching you live, it was just like, it was one of those rare gigs. And Vinny's on the at Southport there. That's where I saw you. And I didn't want the show to finish. I was really disappointed that they stopped playing. And that's, mate, that never happens. I think the last time that probably happened was 15, 16 years ago or something.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it was a good show, that. That was, everything seemed to click that night. Yeah. Yeah, I think with the Misery stuff, that it's got a lot more space, so you can sort of, than a lot of the really fast metal stuff. So, if someone's starting and wanting to figure out, just start slow and play light, and, fucking don't try and play too many notes all at once.
Yeah. You're a band with no weaknesses, though. Damon up front is just an excellent frontman. He's just got it down pat. The look, everything. He's so imposing. Great bass playing. And then the other fella, his name, sorry, I should have checked it before I got on the call with you. On the other guitar, you guys are, a perfect complement for each other. And then the drums too, mate. They're just there. And we've just arrived at a point. I've been saying it now for a couple of years, but we've got so many great options in Australia with extreme metal acts. There's so many really good ones around at the minute. And, being a local, I'm sort of, word isn't proud, I suppose, but I'm just really glad that you guys are local and I can show people what Brisbane death metal sounds like internationally and say this is the standard. Yeah. Damon's bloody amazing. The frontman, he's very imposing. Got a good stage presence, I reckon. He had a fucking car accident a couple of days ago, so he's on a good way at the moment. So. Because he's up at Maloney, isn't he? Or he's up Sunshine Coast Way. Yeah, okay, yeah. Was he? Yeah, is he in hospital or is he just?
He was. He's out now, but he got cleaned up by a truck, and he hit the door, and he was in hospital for a day, I think. But he's got cracked ribs, but apart from that, he's all right. Okay. Car's written off. But thanks. Yeah, it was pretty trippy. That happened on Thursday.
Thursday, was it? Yeah. Well, I mean, that was going to be one of the questions I had. When you sort of mentioned an album just in our opening exchanges there, is that for Misery or Laceration Mantra?
What's that, sorry?
You mentioned a new album. Is that for Misery or
Laceration? I'm working on a Misery one too. We're doing a live album. So.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
And we're going to... There's a recording we did back around 2000 that we never released, so we're going to do that as well and add another new song that we did a few years ago onto it. Yeah.
Okay, sweet. Yeah,
a lot going on though. Yeah, the Laceration album's the main thing I'm working on at the moment.
So is Laceration really it's hard to sort of put it into tears, I suppose, but is that the one that takes up most of your time?
It depends what's happening, but yeah, it has until Misery sort of kicked off a bit more recently, so that sort of took over for a while. And then this motorized stuff comes up every now and then, so we just sort of juggle it. It's basically the same dudes doing it, so we just have
I noticed that. Yeah,
bass player and singers.
Hey, do you do any singing in the bands?
Pardon?
Do you do any singing in the bands yourself?
I do a bit of backing vocals in motorized, but none in the death metal stuff.
Yeah. You haven't tried it? Given it a go?
Oh, man, it's just too much for me, I can't. If it's rock and you're just hanging a chord, you can sing, but when you're trying to play and concentrate on what you're trying to do and it's all technical, I just can't do it.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. I don't blame you for giving that explanation. Yeah. So with your playing, mate, are you one of those guys who you developed your technique very early on, or do you think it was a fairly long evolution?
Yeah, I think I did. Yeah. Well, I was influenced a lot by. There's a good mate of mine, Tony Champ. He's a tattooer down the Gold Coast these days. But he was a bit older, and we started jamming, and he had a little Hendrixy sort of style, but he's all into the shredders and all that as well, like all the early cacophony and all that sort of shit. And he was a big influence on me. And I was only about 18 back then. So, yeah, I think I don't know. It just sort of came naturally, and just was able to pick things up by ear and stuff like that. So,
because Misery started not long after the extreme metal emerged out of parts of Britain and the United States as well. So, were you influenced by those bands, or were you like what happens a lot of the time I find in Queensland is that, like the Saints, the original punk band, one of the first punk bands ever, they just seemed to evolve out of absolutely nothing and with nobody influencing. They were just there and formed. Is that same for you guys?
Well, I don't know. Personally, I was into punk and stuff as well as the rock stuff in the like 80s and that. But yeah, the first thing that really made me want to play death metal was like that Morbid Angel, that for the early stuff they did, and Thrower, and just the heaviness of that, and early Carcass, and So yeah, we sort of heard that and went, oh well, yeah, that sounds pretty fucking cool.
Yeah,
started to try and do it, you know. But we were all sort of playing. We were playing in a band called Northwinds, Damon and I, prior to that, which started off playing like Creator and the thrashier sort of shit.
Yeah.
And that sort of morphed into death metal as it turned into Misery.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned punk, and then of course the great originators like Carcass and Morbid. But see, I can hear some stuff like in your riff writing. I can hear whether it's an influence or it's just my own comparisons. Candlemass and Black Sabbath. I can hear that as well.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, that's a lot. Damon's right into. He's a massive Sabbath fan, but I really like My Dying Bride and all that stuff, and Sabbath, obviously. Yeah, there's big Sabbath influence in it, I think.
What are the greatest compliments that I think I can give to you is all of your riffs sound precise, meaning that, like, when I listen to Megadeth, and Dave Mustaine's admitted this himself many times, that he was influenced by producers and even engineers, I think, like on the album Euthanasia. And it ruined some of the songs where he was told to speed it up or slow them down to fit in with the radio, beats per minute that would be played on radio. Whereas with your stuff, I listen to it and go, would I change, as a musician, if I was in a rehearsal room and I was your bassist, for example, would I say, hey, let's play this a bit faster? The answers for all of the stuff that I've heard from you is no. And that's such an important element of songcraft, that one there, that often gets overlooked by people. They just think, oh, if you've got a riff, no, you've got to actually get the riff at the right meter, the right tempo. And then that's where your crushing heaviness, I think, comes from.
Yeah. And the transition between the riffs, I think, is important. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It was like it's not an exaggeration to say that it felt like the whole room was shaking on your riff changes, because it's just this gate coming down, and you can just feel the air getting sucked out of the room and coming back in again. You know, sucked out when you stop it and coming back in when you start playing again. And there's a real art to that, man. I've really only seen all of the metal bands that I've seen, and there've been hundreds at this point. There'd be 3 or 4 that I think really get that aspect of it right.
Yeah. Wow.
You know, I understand what makes heavy music, if you like, because it's not speed, I can tell you that.
Yeah. Well, I think, like you said, producers do wreck things a bit, you know, because they're paid to do something, so they've got to be shown to have done something, I guess. But, some of those songs were, like, just come, like, straight away, and that's how it is, but some of them we sort of crafted a fair bit before we recorded them, you know. It was on tune. But Yeah, if having someone you don't know come in and go, oh, change this, change that. Fuck that.
It's completely. Look, in some cases, I think you need it. I've worked with Richie Norton from Super Heist before, and he's a producer, and he's told me some situations where he's asked bands to rearrange things. And from what he was saying, it was just because it's only track 10 or 11, and we'll just bung it on. It's like, no, rewrite it, get it right.
Oh, yeah, I suppose that's good constructive advice, sort of thing. I mean, if you're going to record something, you should be confident that it's the best it can be before you record it, I reckon. So
I tend to agree, yeah.
And it's your music, so it's got to be how it is,
Yeah, something else that's come up, I can't remember if it was with Richie or it's another producer, but telling me how many bands, like well-known bands too, would arrive at a studio without having written any songs. They just think they can wing the song in the studio, the songwriting process in the studio, and it's like, holy shit.
Yeah, that's too much pressure, man.
Well, it's interesting that the producer talk's interesting because my opinion on Silverchair, for example, completely different kettle of fish to what we're talking about. Daniel Johns, he needed Kevin Shirley big time. Kevin Shirley on that first album, the guys in Iron Maiden, to give you an example, okay, they heard what Kevin Shirley did on Frogstomp and said, "You're going to be our guy from now on." That's how good his work on that album was. Okay, and then listen to everything else Daniel Johns has done after that one fucking album when he was about 12 or 13 or something. It's just garbage because he thought he knew best, but he's got a mental health issues clearly.
Yeah,
but he needed somebody to be very stern with him and go, "No, if you weren't going off into this part of the universe, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Stay here and do this." So there's an example where a producer really works if you've got a precocious talent, but not with you guys. Yeah, it'd be silly.
Just depends on the band, I guess. If you just certain chemistry, and, it just comes together, and that that's what it should be. Other times it's not quite there, and you just keep chiseling away. But it's got to be right before you track it seriously, I think.
Yeah. Well, what about the lineup changes and the like in Misery? Because I've only got Encyclopedia of Italian to go by, so it doesn't look like you've had too many over the course of 30 years.
No, Damon and Ant and I have been constant. Yeah, we've had a couple of vocalists and one other guitarist, really. That's it. Yeah.
It's not a bad track record, is it?
Yeah, no, it's been a long time, man.
But that means it's a cohesive unit that's working for you guys. Clearly, I mean, it sounds like it works, and it clearly does work.
Yeah. Well, we had a big break for a long time because Damon moved over to the States. He got married and stayed over there for about 10 years or however long it was. So, but when he came back, that's when I did like Laceration Mantra and all that sort of formed around then. But yeah, it's as soon as you come back, it just clicks, man. There's chemistry. It's like Anthony and I have always played together since the start, really, in heaps of different bands. He's definitely got something going on there.
Yeah. With regards to your songwriting, then, how do you choose what is a Misery song, or do you just know what's a Misery song and what's a Laceration Mantra song when you're forming the riffs?
Yeah, well, it's sort of right with what that band is in mind, sort of. They're similar in a way, I suppose. But I haven't really written any Misery stuff for quite a long time, so wrote a few years ago that we tracked. That if I were to write a Misery song, it wouldn't probably have a different sort of vibe to it, I suppose.
Yeah. And you guys work with Ian Redman a lot too, don't you, from memory?
Yeah, he does live sound for us whenever he's around, but he's usually travelling all over the world these days. But, he's a good lad.
Great fella. Yeah, I really like Ian, actually. I was in Cross Trigger and he recorded us back in 2010, and always see him at the metal shows, mate, and he's advocated for me on a couple of occasions. When I've was catching up with the Metal Church guys and stuff. It was all prearranged, but the security guys wouldn't let me bloody up to the upstairs area in the old crowbar there, and Ian advocated for me, mate. I really appreciated that. You know, he's a bloody good bloke.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about with your standard of playing early on? Did you sort of have big hopes and aspirations that you could take what you were doing to the world? Was that even a thought?
I don't know. We're a bit isolated out here, you know. Like, we've had a lot of interest from overseas, and we were supposed to tour America with who was it? Deeds of Flesh, I think, back in the 90s, but for whatever reason we couldn't get the cash together to get it happening.
Label support, yeah, because you guys were on Warhead, weren't you?
Yeah, at that time we were, yeah. But in the earlier days, we were with a local label, local Brizzy label.
What was I'm talking to Brad on and off, actually, about getting him on the show. Because I want to know where all the bodies are buried, if you know what I'm saying. So he's the guy to ask. But what was your experience and your memories of working with Brad and I can't remember his wife's name, but, you know, the Warhead crew?
Yeah, they were great, man. Yeah, I actually ran into Rod recently at a gig, because I think he told me that Brad's living up the Gold Coast or down the Gold Coast. So
yeah,
and he is too. Yeah, no, they were great to deal with, man. Like, they had the promotional shit down pat, you know, and it was all going great. But then it folded, so that was that.
Yeah, I think they lost. I don't know shit. Okay, this is why I'm trying to talk to Brad about things, but I was a huge fan of what they were doing. Bands like you guys, especially Revel and Blasphemy, I spun that a lot. That CD.
Yeah, they were really on it, hey? Like, yeah, I was quite surprised when it all went kaput, but yeah, whatever reason, you have to ask Brad about that, I guess.
Yeah. I'll have to try and find out, because I know we tried to do the magazine in the pit or from the pit or something like that. And I bought a couple of those, but then it stopped, and I don't think there was much sales on that. And look, extreme metal, as you know, mate, it's a cottage industry. It's really fan driven.
Yeah.
In your face, sorry. There you go. Yeah, there we go. Good. Yeah. All the good old days, mate.
Yeah, that was about. I think they had like proper distribution for that, like Australia wide, and all the news agencies and all that back then.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah. Well, if they were in Sydney, you could buy it. From my experience, you could get it up here, or you could get it in Melbourne or whatever. Whenever I was travelling around, a bit like Metal Maniacs. Remember Metal Maniacs? So you could get that in most places, airports. You know, you could get it in most places, provided they were a mainstream manufacturer or mainstream stockist of goods. You know, it's But yeah, those old Warhead days. Do you think? Here's a question for you. Okay, do you sort of look back fondly on the old days as being better than what things are like nowadays, or is it just different?
I don't know. It's not much different to what it is these days, really. It's just venues come and go, and
don't they just
shit happens, whatever. I don't really see that much difference, man. Like, there's always festivals popping up here and there, and if you're good enough, you get asked to play them, I guess. But I don't know. Things, labels, especially like smaller labels, like obviously people change their lives and want to do different shit, you know, and they move on. So so especially in Australia with death metal, it's really not that easy. Oh, it's probably easier now, but back then it wasn't easy to get international label support because they didn't want to ship you over touring, you know, everywhere from Australia, you know.
Yeah, so you had to do what the Destroyer 666 guys did.
Yeah, you got to relocate basically.
Yeah. Seems like that's the only way to be successful in Australia is to move move to Belgium or Denmark or something like that, or Holland, I think, wasn't it? Those guys, and or the US. I know some people tried the US, but the US always, I keep on hearing, I used to hear a lot of stories about people going over there, the cryogenic guys who were on Warhead too. You know, when they split up, they had another band called In the Name Of, I think it was called, and they went over there for a bit and didn't work out. I'm not saying that they did the wrong things or they didn't have bad luck or good luck or either way, but I've only ever heard bands going over there for a bit and then coming back with an ICU and a credit card debt.
Mm-hmm. Was Sankey in that band, the drummer? Is that Cryogenic?
That was Jenkins. I can't remember his first name now. But they're all up here these days, mate, all of those guys. Not all, but I think he's. I occasionally see some Facebook stuff or what have you. And but I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with those guys. I mean, there's a couple of those bands. They were a great band, man. I would love to have seen them and you guys, Cryogenic and you guys back to back in the day. Jesus.
Yeah.
That would have been a heck of a fucking show if that ever worked out back then.
Yeah, Manticore were another good band from back then on Warhead. They fucking kicked right.
They were bloody brilliant, mate. They're from Wagga or something like that, weren't they?
Yeah, we ran into Steve recently. So we did when Skits came up and did his drum clinic thing. He asked us to do a couple of songs with him. So Steve was in his backing band doing the thing, playing Manticore and fucking all Skits and stuff. It was cool.
That's good to know, actually. Again, that's another band I haven't seen, Damaged, and seen. I know Matt does a lot of other things these days, but just again, without pissing in your pocket too much again, with the caliber of you playing, were you one of the more in-demand guitarists in the extreme metal genre in Australia back then? Like, did you get a lot of calls from management types saying, hey, are you available?
No.
It's crazy. Jesus. That's interesting.
The band sort of, as we after the first album that sort of took off, we got calls to do gigs, but I never got any like personal calls to do guitar shit or anything like that. But I have done a bit of session work, but yeah.
Is that with Ian, is it, or other stuff?
Oh, whatever pays.
Yeah.
I've done country shit, session work, and all sorts of crap. I hate that music, but it's money.
Yeah, I'm a bit like you. That like I play covers, so after a while, whether we're playing fucking Achy Breaky Heart or whatever it might be, I don't even notice what we're playing. To be quite honest with you, I'm just following the notes and making sure it's tight. I don't even.
There's no
playing it.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, no, it's just you're just trying to make sure, especially because I'm doing singing these days. You're just trying to make sure everything fits. In particular, because we don't have a guitarist at the moment in the cover band, so we're using a different one every show. And I've got to make sure it's locked down. Being the bassist, I've got to make sure that even when they're not sure what's going on, I've just got to keep playing through. So I think I've sort of become very utilitarian in my approach to being a musician. It sounds like you've arrived at a similar place.
Yeah. No, I don't do that anymore. I don't have time now. But no, I just want to play heavy shit, really.
Well, you do it fucking well, mate. Yeah, gosh, yeah. This music's a lot of people's ears, I reckon. Hearing that you want to keep on playing heavy shit.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna, man. Yeah, that's what I do. Yeah, fuck yeah. There's a lot going on at the moment. So we just went down to fucking Adelaide and played at that New Dead down there, which was pretty cool. It's great Australian acts down there.
Yeah, and you did the Tasmanian thing. Sorry, I can't. What's it? Dark Mofo or Dead of Night?
Yeah, that was awesome. Yeah, it was kind of weird though, because it was like in a gap in the COVID era, and we managed to get down there, but it was at the Odeon Theatre, but everyone had to sit down, everyone had to wear masks, no one could stand up, all these fucking rules, it was just kind of surreal.
You will do what we say, when and how.
Yeah, it's on video. I think it's on YouTube somewhere, like the whole show. Yeah.
I've seen it. It's a good show. It's a bloody good show.
It's kind of strange. I was just sitting there on the seat clapping. Yeah.
like you're having a matinee performance or something like that.
And everyone was wearing white masks. It was fucking weird.
You didn't have to wear masks on stage, did you?
No, we didn't. Luckily, I was surprised though. But no, that was a pretty strict time back then, wasn't it?
Very odd. It was. I mean, for us, it was weird that we became like a hermit kingdom or something like that when she fucking closed the borders. Which is crazy on the Gold Coast, as you know, because the New South Wales thing doesn't kick in until you get well past Ballina. Everybody from Ballina North is part of the Gold Coast, effectively, and that's where if you've got to go to a specialist doctor or whatever, you go to Tweed or Southport.
And you couldn't. That's crazy, eh?
Yeah, I think I got to go back and I definitely remember that bloody idiot premier of ours saying our hospitals are for Queenslanders or something like that. I mean, it was a disgusting thing to say when there were people dying out there of non-COVID related illnesses. But look, she's a fucking nutcase, mate. Excuse my language.
Yeah, there's a fair bit of government overreach, that's for sure.
Oh, it was a terrible thing, and I remember talking to Matty Wilcock about what was going on down there in Melbourne, and it just seemed unconscionable is the word I want to use. Not backed by any science, no matter how much the lefties want to jump up and down and bang on about it. There's no science that supports their actions through that period. It was just politics, plain and simple, and that's been proven. They were doing surveys, government-funded surveys, right, to work out what the population wanted. It turned out that there was this whole bunch of this block of voters that wanted everybody to be stuck at home because they believed the propaganda. And as you know, mate, there were venues that didn't open up after life returned.
Oh, it killed them. A lot of mental health issues stem from it too, from people being fucking locked up and, lots of issues arose from it, unfortunately.
I can tell you now, personally, my alcohol consumption went through the fucking roof through that period of time. And there was just, what do you do? We're educating the kids at home over Zoom or Teams or whatever it was,
it was impossible, really. And the fucking teacher didn't know what they were doing, and no one knew what the fuck was going on. It was, unreal.
I just can't understand how we arrived at a point where we all thought that was acceptable. I mean, now it's only just now, mate, particularly in Victoria, that the court cases are happening with the police that were beating the living shit out of people. I mean, it's just a crazy. One bloke was literally the reasons that the defending solicitor gave to the judge for why this guy was beaten up by police, and I kid you not, was because he was wearing glasses and standing next to a wall.
Fuck.
And I just thought, how have we arrived at a point where our very humanity seems to be sidelined? Because the solution can never be worse than the problem itself. It's just created so many issues, and you got people now. You got people now. Sorry, I'll make the point is that they're so attuned to just doing what the government tells them to do. It's like, well, there's good and bad governments, guys. Have a look overseas. I mean, just about all of South America, just about all of Africa, great swathes of Asia have shitty governments in power that oppress their people.
Yeah,
governments are a very, very. It should be like what John Howard says. Governments do their job best in countries like Australia when the general population barely notices that they exist.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I spent some time growing up in Africa, so the governments there were corrupt to the extreme. But I don't think it changes too much.
No, well, as you know, how many South Africans are moving have been for the last 20 years. We had them moving next door to us a couple of years ago. Lovely couple, but they were shell shocked, mate. They had PTSD, and they just the stories that they told me, mate, about they simply couldn't. They arrived at a conclusion. They simply couldn't have kids in South Africa. It was just not. Forget about not safe. It was just irrational to do that.
Yeah. So
they moved over with virtually nothing, and he was a cabinet maker, so he just used his hands to start building a life for him and his wife, And eventually now they've got lovely kids, mate. But it's I do a lot of swimming, and the lifeguard at Pimpama there, she's South African too. Yeah, she got out when she was 16 or 17.
Yeah.
Of South Africa. It's extremely dangerous. And just the media, being the fucking media, they don't, it's narrative, it's not news, and it hasn't been used for a long time, as we know. It's just narrative.
Yeah.
And they tell a story that they want to go out there. I think countries like South Africa, they should go back to black banning their sports teams.
Yeah.
And saying until you have a social welfare policy in place where people aren't judged by the colour of their skin, which is what's going on over there, so you can't compete.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy, eh? What can you do?
Mate, we've got the music. I think that's why I like music so much, because there's a bit of an anchor in this crazy old world. You know, and,
it's a good outlet.
It is, and just listening. When I see someone, a performer like you, someone who's got that command of their craft, that's very inspiring. It takes you away from what we just spoke about there. It doesn't mean that stuff's not important, or it's not a reductionist point of view to say that, but it is saying that art and creativity and excellence around this sort of thing, it inspires you to feel good about the good things in life.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Oh, it's fucking. Yeah. No, I've definitely been influenced by some of my upbringing, that's for sure, having to live in those third world countries and stuff like that. So.
Was your father part of the Peace Corps or a diplomat, wasn't he?
Oh, no, I was born in England and grew up in England, and then it's when Maggie Thatcher was in government, then there was a big recession over there and he couldn't get work, so he got a job over in Nigeria. So he moved over there for a while. And it was pretty bad, pretty nasty place to be. Saw a lot of things a kid probably shouldn't see. But I think that's definitely influenced the way I've grown and the way I think and express anger, I guess, through music.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, that ability to channel emotions that might otherwise be negative or harmful into something that's really productive, like what you've done, is commendable, man.
Yeah. Art is great, that sort of thing, isn't it?
Oh, that and sport. I think those two outlets, if you can sort of harness it, sport gets a bit, messed up, but music is, music's great because you can just do it by yourself in your bedroom or your living area. All these apps and programs and stuff that are out there these days, even if you just sing karaoke, just something very basic like that, just to sort of feel creative again.
Well, music's limitless too, isn't it? So.
Well, the guitar, I think there was remember that movie, Close Encounters of the Third Kind?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you remember that? Remember that chime? Remember that dun 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 dun, that thing there? Yeah. Apparently, I'll get it wrong in terms of the number, but apparently there were hundreds of combinations just because there's 4 notes or 5 notes in that.
Yeah.
And they realised, there's only going to be a couple of ways we can do this. And then when they mathematically worked it out, just from those 4 combinations of notes, it compounds. So 1 is 1 note, obviously 2, and then it starts compounding after that. And there was hundreds of different versions of the beat and the rhythm and the melody that they could have chosen on that. Now, that's 4 notes, and you look at the chromatic options on a guitar fretboard, it's limitless. You can sit there and learn all of the modes and all of the scales, and then do all of the scales, the modes in the Middle Eastern modes or whatever there might be out there that aren't quite part of the textbooks that we follow. And you think you can do almost anything with this you really want. It's just a matter of, like to your point a moment ago, working out what you're trying to do with the guitar on an emotional level and using that as like your muse or the way you channel your creativity.
Yeah. Well, I purposely don't. I sort of try and steer clear of concrete theory sort of thing, and like lots of sort of weird modes and Eastern sounding scales and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And later on, I went on to study a bit more about normal theory, but I've always really dug that sort of weird, sort of minor, weird fucking sounding shit.
Yeah. The other guitarist that comes to mind when I was watching it was Jeff Hanneman.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could definitely. I've seen Slayer once, and Kerry cops a lot of shit, but his rhythm's tight, and you're similar. It's a very tight rhythmic flow that he's got going on. I'm not a fan of some of his alternative picking stuff. I think he sort of trips over himself occasionally, which I can understand because God knows I do it. But when you're playing as fast as what they are with the drummer that doesn't miss a beat like Dave Lombardo, you've really got to have your level of there's that word like I used up top, precision, in order to really nail it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Oh, it's good to just play outside the box a bit too, though, and not fucking just copy shit that other people are doing. I think that's important. There's too much shit that sounds all the same these days. Well, always has, really.
Yeah, I speak to a lot of bands, and some of them definitely. Like I get stuff sent to me from Metal Blade, Napalm, Nuclear Blast, all the usual ones, and there's a whole cohort of that stuff. To your point there, that it's like the producer that they've used is like there's a template that so many of these bands seem to use and apply. It must be a template because the sound. It doesn't matter what they're playing, but it's just not memorable, and it all sounds very compressed. And when I put it into Premiere Pro, it's bricked. The waveform is bricked, and it's just, what are they doing? It's just there's no waves and no dynamic in it.
Yeah, no, the hooks and dynamics and that sort of thing. Yeah, which is seems to be lacking. But there's a lot of fucking really cool shit coming through as well. By the same token that I've heard, there's a band called Salt Money that I saw recently. They're fucking pretty wild.
Wow, I haven't heard of them. Yeah.
They're like, just crazy, intense sort of shit. Yeah, have a look at them. Yeah, good. From Brisbane, I think.
Salt Money. Okay, I'll check them out. Yeah, I've been going just with the music show that I put together. I've been on a bit of a Sentient Ruin trip. The label Sentient Ruin from Oakland in California. Yeah, they just have the most extreme shit possible. This stuff, and some of it's borderline unlistenable, but I subject myself to it because I often find it helps you appreciate a lot of extreme music when you listen to the most extreme stuff and just sort of stay with it for a bit.
Yeah. I find that sort of relaxing, it's like so, I don't know, it's kind of calming in a way.
Oh, I'm with you. I listen to a lot of it to go to sleep, and sometimes my wife will say, "What are you fucking listening to?" Like, Trepannering's Ritual in as well, which is Thomas does this. When I say it's synth music, that's not really the case, but he's using a synth, but he's a lot of weird garbles and yelling and stuff going on over the top. But again, it's very extreme stuff. It sounds like someone's being tortured in a dungeon half the time, but it does, mate. I listen to it to go to sleep, and I think it works. It does what it does for me.
Yeah. I guess it depends on what is going on upstairs, eh?
Oh no, doesn't it just? So how do you keep balance with everything? Because you've got a job, I assume, and family and commitments like that. So how do you keep balance with everything and not go a bit crazy?
I just try and cram everything in. I don't know how I do it, but I work for 4 days a week, and got a fam. But the kids are pretty self-sufficient these days. Yeah, I don't know, man. Just got to structure it, I guess. And it's not fully constant all the time, which is a good thing. Like, I'm not away 3 months at a time. And it's just sort of weekenders and shit. So I don't know. We cram it in somehow. And I guess it helps that like the bands I'm in have interchangeable members as well, so we can sort of figure it all out pretty quickly.
Yeah. What do you do? What do you do for a day job? What's your day job?
I'm a graphics dude. I work in communications at a community service org. So
we do the same job. That's interesting. Yeah.
But I'm more of the publication side of things. Like, I do websites and annual reports and print.
Yeah, same.
That sort of stuff. Yeah.
I work for I don't hold it against me. I work for the Uniting Church, and I work for the synod there, and it sounds like I do very much so. I do all the bulletins, and I can do the websites. It's just we're sort of going through a streamlining process at the moment, but I do all of that sort of stuff that you do, and video work too, and podcasting. Obviously, I put the podcast together for them, and I'm a journo right by trade. I went to Bond, so
cool.
I just how journalism and communications is these days. If it's anything to do with anything that someone reads or looks at, that's us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and I don't think we'll ever be short of a gig.
No, it's fucking changing and morphing, eh? Like, you've got to know how to do fucking everything these days. You're a photographer, videographer, fucking graphic design, fucking comms person. But
You're not wrong, yeah.
It's challenging. It's good. Yeah, I dig it. You keep your brain active, eh? And just keep fucking...
I think these days I'm so used to, I wouldn't call it multitasking, but like a lot of dynamism in the work that we're doing, meaning that one thing can be answering an email, and the next task is putting together a video, and then the next task is writing a news media style article to go on Journey Online, which is the online publication for the Uniting Church. There's no one day. I'll probably do about 7 or 8 things in any one day, and they're all at 90 degrees to each other. They're all very different. All the tasking is very different. So I enjoy it, mate. I'd be, if I didn't do this job, I don't know what I'd do, mate. I enjoy it too much.
Yeah. I like the way it's different every day, and there's always something happening. Because I'm at a community services org, and I sit with some of the teams. We have clients coming in and out, and so it's all go. It's pretty cool.
No, that's cool, mate. Yeah. Well, then, no, that's great, mate. This has been an awesome chat. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I was so inspired by what I saw at Vinny's Dive, and it was just one of those moments where I was like, man, if I can get you to come onto the show and we have a bit of a chat, it'd be awesome, and it has been, mate. So I'm going to be at the Zoom show, so mate, I might tap you on the shoulder at Becky.
Yeah, cool. All right, man. Well, thanks for having me, eh?
Well, there you have it, a chat with the mighty Australian extreme metal guitarist par excellence, Scott Edgar. You really have to watch that guy perform live to understand why I'm so impressed, because he really puts on a show within a show. Love watching his bolt-tight riffage. It's just so tough. Would love to be able to play guitar like that, but his technique is born of many, many decades experience, and also some very obvious natural talent. Now, if you enjoyed that chat, there are many more just like it over at scarsandguitars.com, and if you like listening, perhaps you like reading, and you're in luck, because I've written a book, Scars and Guitars Volume 1, Conversations from the World of Heavy Metal and Beyond. Click the link in the banner on the website and you'll be taken to a marketplace of your choice. You know the rest. Download a sample, and if you do complete the purchase, let me know, because I want to thank you personally. On that note, there's a lot more information to share with you about the book, but before we get to that, I need to bid you a fond farewell. My name's Andrew Mackay-Smith, and I'm the host of the Scars and Guitars podcast. Until next time, it's a goodbye for now.
This is Eric Rattan of Cannibal Corpse. You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast with Andrew Mackay-Smith.
I've been the host of the Scars and Guitars podcast since 2017. The first musician I interviewed for the show was David Vincent from Morbid Angel, and things have just snowballed from there. In all, I've posted almost 650 podcast episodes featuring conversations with many of the leading lights of rock, heavy metal, and beyond. It just got to a point where I thought, I need to write a book about all this, so that's exactly what I did. In Scars and Guitars Volume 1, you'll read a heap of deep reveals and commentary, such as Des Fafara talking about Coal Chamber and why the band will never return.
You know, if you're a band just starting out, you need to hear me. Do not start a band with partners. Ever.
Yeah, wise words there. Sage advice, mate, for anybody.
Don't ever, because I can't go do Coal Chamber right now unless I get others involved.
Phil Anselmo talks about the episode in his career which gives him the greatest sense of accomplishment.
I think the staying power of the fans and the staying power of the songs, you know, whether it's Pantera, Down, or Superjoint, the fans remember the songs.
Alex Skolnick from Testament confirms that, yes, playing the guitar in Ozzy's band is anything but an ordinary gig. Will Silent Oz from Dimmu Borgir write a book? Pa from Sabaton gives advice to people who want to start a band.
Look at the team around you, look at the bandmates. If the guys want to be on the stage, then it's all cool. If the guys want to be backstage, then it's not going to be cool.
Current and former members of Cradle of Filth discuss the band's seminal 90s material. Read about the reaction to George Lynch and Mark from Suicide Silence's comments when they throw shade at then President Donald Trump.
We have this idiotic monster, this egotistical, self-aggrandizing, complete piece of shit in there. I just can't understand how we've gotten to this place.
And yeah, we kicked a hornet's nest with Sepultura. Percussive overlord Gene Hoglan talks about recording with Chuck Schuldiner.
Chuck was always, he was very open-minded, and he was into having his musicians that were playing with him just reach out for the best stuff that they had.
Phil Campbell from Motorhead discusses what it takes to get sober. John Five answers his critics who dismiss his tenure with Marilyn Manson.
My name is John Five, and Manson gave me that name, and I had some of the best years of my life in that band and learned a lot.
And we get the lowdown on Treyarch Zagtoth from those who would know, including his mother. All across Scars and Guitars Volume 1, there are moments of tension, relief, tragedy, exhilaration, and throughout it all, you'll obtain insight that I believe no one else has managed to obtain from many of your favourite artists. So treat yourself. Scars and Guitars Volume 1 is currently available as an ebook with a print edition on the horizon. Follow the links attached and download a sample. I'm sure you'll be compelled to read the whole book.